Miller's Run Road, Cecil. I see I'm limited, I'm time limited in my comments, so I'll get right down to the point. I think it would be almost disingenuous at this point to exchange pleasantries. I think we all kind of know where everybody is on these issues. I read the correspondence that you handed out, and I listened to what was said tonight, and I think that although a lot of those things are technically true, I think there's a bigger issue that we need to be discussing. And my concern, and I think it's the concern of the people behind me and the people who live in this project, is we have not heard a statement of intention from this board as to how this H2O money would be spent in an ideal situation. I understand and I appreciate the fact that you are not trying to jump the gun by saying this is definitely what we're going to do, because you're right, there are questions. There are questions with the state as far as limitations as to what exactly can be reimbursed, what cannot, and how those things work. And we knew that going into the application process. Everybody knew from the beginning, just by the nature of the project, this was going to be a reimbursement. There was literally no other way to do it. And you're right, no money has been received yet. The bonds weren't going to be floated until November. We knew that from July, whenever we were told. But my concern is we found out about this grant in July. And here we are in November. And we've heard this board say, and it was said here tonight, we want to do the right thing. And I think the concern is, at least my concern, is what exactly does the right thing mean? Because through the history of this project, which we won't get into, but through the history of this project, I think there's a very clear case that could be made that or multiple people have had different impressions of what the right thing is to do. My request of this board would be for you to make your intentions known to the residents as to what you consider to be the right thing. I have said all along that, in my opinion, the right thing is to give a substantial refund of tap-in fees to the people that were forced to pay them. I've spoken to people throughout the state. I've had people in and out of my office in the Capitol, and we've talked about different projects, different funding aspects, and we looked at the H2OPA grant, and I would tell people what the tap-in fee was for the Miller's Run project. People looked at me and said, you've got to have that number wrong. And from my experience of talking with people statewide and other representatives and people from other areas, I've yet to see anybody that have a tap-in fee approach the amount that we were asked to pay. That's in the past. It's done with now. And we could stand here forever and debate how things should or shouldn't have gone. What I'm worried about, what I'm concerned about, what I think everybody here is concerned about is the future. Because the way I see it, if we get this $5 million, there's really only two things you can do. And I had a conversation with someone from the Department of Community and Economic Development about this just a day or two ago. There's really only two ways to go. We can either pay down long-term debt, which will in theory trickle down to the users, but it's going to be a slow progression for them to see any tangible benefit. The other concern with that is if by paying down debt, that would free up borrowing space for the authority. The authority then could turn around and borrow money to do another project, and the people in Miller's Run aren't really going to see much of a long-term benefit. The other option would be to, once the money is received by the municipal authority, because the authority will have that in effect as found money, money that was not contemplated at the time the project was done, that money could be turned around and given back in part to the people that helped finance the project. Now, I know that some people have said, well, that this is kind of not really a typical way to do something like this. My answer to that is that I don't think that if you follow the history of this project, there hasn't been a whole lot typical about it from the beginning. What we have here is an extremely rare an extremely rare opportunity to right a wrong that had been done years ago. And, it would be, we should be thankful that we have this problem, because this is a unique, wonderful problem to have, is how do we spend $5 million? And it was a problem that I don't think was anticipated when this project was conceived. But we're here now. And I just spoke on the way in. I just drove back in from Harrisburg. And I spoke with Kevin Camerson, the chairman of the Board of Supervisors. And I spoke with some of the other supervisors. And they're pretty adamant. They wanted, they're in the same boat as I am and the residents are. They want to know. They want to know what your intentions are. Now, I can tell you that, I realize that there's still a ways to go between where we're at now and finally having that money. And there's some questions that need to be answered. But my concern is that the board, because you haven't come out and said, we are, as a matter of policy, we are in favor of rebates, if possible. And that makes me nervous. And I think that makes the people in this room nervous, and I think it makes the Board of Supervisors nervous.
With that, I guess it may have been better if we were able to, and I agree with you, have made some type of a policy statement. Again, because of the history of the project, you can understand that we are very cautious in trying to not jump the gun and raise more issues with the public than we need to. But I personally agree with the idea of rebating to the customers. And I haven't heard anything really to the contrary, but I can't speak for the entire board. But that hasn't been something that people have said, no, we don't want to do that. I think we're in I really believe we're in agreement. When at the end of the day, that we will be in agreement with what you are. In some ways, you're helpful in that you're able to get those requests out and help, guide us. If for some reason we weren't going in that direction to do the right thing, but I think we are on a parallel track.
Well, and I can appreciate that, but I think that the time has come for our parallel tracks to become one. And I think that at this point, there is nothing stopping this board from making that public policy statement. And I think nothing would make me happier and the people in this room happier and the people of Cecil happier than to know that finally we're all on the same page with how we want to proceed here. So my thought is, and I've talked with other people in some abstracts, but I would invite the board to a discussion where we could sit down and really start to look at, assuming that we can do what we want to do, how are we going to make this work? And from my experience, I'm not comfortable waiting until the money's sitting in the bank. I don't want to do that. I don't want to wait. And because I really think there's no reason to. I mean, there's no reason that we can't sit down and start working on this now. From talking with people from the DCD and from the Commonwealth Finance Authority,